that one person. Did you have FOMO?
I did, well, I did on day one.
And then you realised I was not going
So Ricky's on my and so when she was teaching,
Good afternoon. When we came into office, we immediately conducted an audit of the public finances, and we found a £22 billion black hole. Now, the Independent Office of National Statistics has conducted vital work on the state of immigration and found the previous government were running an open borders experiment. As the ONS sets out, nearly 1 million people came to Britain in the year ending June 2023. That is 4 times the migration levels compared with 2019. Time and again, the Conservative Party promised they would get the numbers down. Time and again, they failed. And now the chorus of excuses has begun. We heard that from the Leader of the Opposition yesterday. But what we didn't hear, what the British people are owed, is an explanation. Because a failure on this scale isn't just bad luck, it isn't a global trend or taking your eye off the ball. No, this is a different order of failure. This happened by design, not accident. Policies were reformed deliberately to liberalise immigration. Brexit was used for that purpose, to turn Britain into a one-nation experiment in open borders. Global Britain. Remember that slogan? That is what they meant. A policy with no support and which they then pretended wasn't happening. And now they want to wave it away with a simple, we got it wrong. Well, that's unforgivable. And mark my words, this government will turn the page. That begins in the economy, because you cannot separate this failure from their refusal to do the hard yards on skills, on welfare reform, on giving our young people opportunities, rather than the easy answers of looking overseas. Because clearly the vast majority of people who entered this country did so to plug gaps in our workforce, skill shortages across the country, which have left our economy hopelessly reliant on immigration. 2.8 million people out of work on long-term sickness, a problem ignored, left to fester. 1 in 8 young people not in employment or education or training. Sectors of our economy, like engineering, where apprenticeships have almost halved in the last decade, while visas have doubled. So we're taking a different approach. We will publish a white paper imminently, which sets out a plan to reduce immigration. The Migration Advisory Committee is already conducting a review. And where we find clear evidence of sectors that are over-reliant on immigration, we will reform the points-based system and make sure that applications for the relevant visa routes, whether it's the skilled worker route or the shortage occupation list, will now come with new expectations on training people here in our country. We will also crack down on any abuse of the visa routes. For far too long, we've been casual about malpractice in our labour market, which sends a clear signal overseas that we're a soft touch. Well, no more. Our rules will be enforced. Any employers who refuse to play ball, they'll be banned from hiring overseas labour. And I'm pleased to announce today a new security agreement between Iraq and the UK. This is a world first that will help us smash the people smuggling gangs and secure our borders. The Home Secretary has been out in Iraq to seal this deal, and we've also announced funding for Iraqi law enforcement to tackle this problem upstream, way before it reaches our shores. We're also tackling the utter mess we inherited in the Home Office. Asylum returns up 53% in the last 12 months compared with the previous year. Total returns up 34% in the last year. And we will keep on going because this is the work of change. And alongside the NHS and the economy, securing our borders is the issue that matters to working people. You know, what people want from politics is not unreasonable. They want order and security, borders that we control, an NHS that protects you, an economy that offers secure work and good opportunities, not just for a few at the top, but for everyone. Let me say directly to the people watching, where the last government failed you, this one will not. They drove immigration numbers up. We will get them down. They left the NHS flat on its face. We will get it standing tall again. They made you poorer. We will put more money in your pockets. It won't be quick or easy, but we are going to turn things around, not with gimmicks, but with graft. A government that will not rest until the foundations are fixed, borders are secure, and Britain is rebuilt. Thank you. I'll now take questions. I think Chris Mason is first from the BBC. Chris.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason at BBC News. The UK appears to have become addicted to immigration, despite the fact that millions of people for years and years have indicated that they wanted to see the numbers fall. Why should people believe you now that you can achieve something that predecessors have not? And one other question, if I may, apologies. Following the BBC's investigation into Mohammed Al-Fayed, should there be a review or an inquiry into the work of the Metropolitan Police, the Crown Prosecution Service that you led, into the failings that have left millions of people without the answers and the justice they might have wanted? Thank you.
Chris, on your first point, what is clear from these figures is really stark, and I think should shock all of us, because the net migration figures in 2019 were 184,000. And then on the figures we've now got today, 4 years later, literally 4 years later, 906,000. 4 times as many. This isn't immigration that's gone up by a few thousand. This is a policy under the last government that's driven immigration up to record levels, a complete loss of control. And that is why we've set out the measures I listed in the words I just said in relation to the action that we are taking. But there's a fundamental problem here, and that's to do with the way our economy works and the loss of control of immigration under the last government. We are going to turn that around with the measures that I have set out. On the question of Al-Fayed, look, I think we need to firstly give confidence to anybody who wants to come forward that they should come forward, and then assess the situation when we see what the final picture is. Thank you, Chris. Beth.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Beth Rigby, Sky News. Prime Minister, in the year to June 2023, net migration was the same amount as it was in the 3 years of freedom of movement up to the Brexit referendum vote. People feel incredibly let down by their politicians. You say you want to bring it down. What does that mean? Will you bring it down to levels of the low 100,000s that we saw in 2019 or 2013, 14, 15? Or can you also not do that because of your need for economic growth? Thank you.
Well, Beth, when you say people have been let down, you're absolutely right, because they were promised by the last government that it would get control of our borders, and we had a government that completely lost control of our borders. And this sort of increase is unprecedented. It's off the scale, what has happened in 4 short years. The way to get it down is the hard graft, not the gimmicks, but the hard graft of driving it down on the skills agenda, Migration Advisory Committee, making sure we're cracking down on employers that are breaking the rules, taking all the measures I've set out, measures that will have an impact on our immigration, which I do want to come down significantly. It needs to reduce. But these numbers, this 4-time increase, that wasn't just bad luck post-Brexit. That was their policy, and they drove immigration up. And as I say, we discovered a £22 billion black hole. We discovered that the prisons were in far worse shape, much fuller than we thought before the election. And now today, what we found is another incredible legacy failure, which is record numbers of immigration. It's our job now to turn it around, and we will. Thank you. And Amy from ITV.
Thanks. Amy Lewis from ITV News. Prime Minister, you obviously today to talk about immigration. Are you going to set a cap on net migration? And if not, how will the public know if you've been successful in delivering your promises? And just a follow-up question, if you don't mind, on what's potentially a landmark day tomorrow with assisted dying. Has your view on this changed since you voted on it in 2015?
Yeah, look, I want to see immigration come down significantly. And I said that before the election, I said that during the election, I say it again here today. So that means bearing down on the influences that have driven it up this high with the measures that I set out a moment ago. We had a supposed cap in place for the best part of a decade, and it didn't have any meaningful impact on reducing immigration. So I don't think setting an arbitrary cap, which is what previous governments have done, is the way forward. But do I want it significantly to reduce? Yes, I do, and that's what our plan will achieve. In relation to assisted dying, look, the vote is coming up tomorrow, obviously. The government is neutral on this, and it is a genuinely free vote for all members of Parliament, and I don't want to put pressure on them. I've obviously got a huge amount of interest and experience in this, having looked at every single case for 5 years that was ever investigated. You know, I will therefore be casting my vote tomorrow. Thank you. Chris, GB.
Chris Hope, GB News. You say you want net migration to fall significantly, Prime Minister. The OBR, which forecasts these numbers, forecasts 315,000 net migrants arriving here but until 2028, 2029, nearly twice the number in 2019. What level are you happy with? Will you cut it back to 2019 levels? And when will that happen by?
Well, Chris, that we want and are intending to drive these numbers down. They're far too high. They signal a loss of control. And that's what these policies are designed to achieve. And that's why the white paper will be published imminently, bringing them together as a plan. I'm not going to pluck an arbitrary number, because that has been tried many years in a row, and it has achieved absolutely nothing. And what I'm not going to do with the British public is adopt an approach which we know has not succeeded and pretend that it's going to succeed. I think the days of fiction and pretending there are easy answers are over. These are the days of hard graft. Thank you, Chris. Kate from Times.
Kate McCann from Times Radio. Figures released today show that the asylum system is costing £5.4 billion in the last year. How much of that money has been spent on asylum hotels, and can you guarantee the British public that that spend will be zero by the end of next year? Thank you.
We must bring the cost of asylum down, and we have a manifesto pledge to bring the number of hotels down, to end the use of hotels, which we are driving hard at. The way to do that is to increase the processing of claims. Among the reasons that so many people in hotels is because for a long time the claims weren't being processed. So more people arriving, none of them getting processed, and an ever-increasing pool of people that then had to be accommodated some way or another. That was completely unsustainable. We've transferred 1,000 staff into the processing and returns work of the Home Office. So a significant redeployment of staff in, which is driving up the processing claims. And of course, when it comes to returns, we've returned 9,600 since the election, and we have got more flights off in terms of the numbers on flights than has ever been done before. So it's processing in the first place. It's making sure that we can do the returns on the other and deploying 1,000 staff in to do that vital work. And that's why their numbers are so significant. Jack at The Sun. Jack.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Jack Ellison from The Sun. You've spoken today largely of immigration as a matter of economics, but many voters are concerned about the cultural impact on their communities. Is this an argument which you are sympathetic to?
Look, I have looked at it mainly as a matter of economics, because if you look at the breakdown within the very high numbers we've got today, very many of them are work visas. But look, in terms of the question you put to me, I do in principle think it's right that we should ensure that we've got the skills and training for people in this country for the jobs that we need. And that is among the drivers of this, that we haven't got the skills regime in place that allows young people, but not just young people in this country, to have the skills that they need and the skills that employers want in order to take us where we need to on the economy. I think the two don't go together, because I think people in this country are entitled to have the opportunity of the skills here. I think businesses are entitled to know that there's a skills strategy that will actually satisfy their needs and their demands. Matt from The Times.
Thank you. Matt Dathan from The Times. You've just announced there'll be new expectations on firms to train domestic workers. Other than the restrictions on visas, what incentives or sanctions will there be? And are you promising British jobs for British workers?
Well, I think it's, for too long, we've had this over-reliance on the easy answer of recruiting from abroad, and that's got to change. And it's a two-way street. We want to support employers, of course we do. We want to grow the economy, and I don't want to make it more difficult for businesses. But at the same time, and as I've said to them previously, they have to be involved in ensuring we've got the skills we need in this country in the places that we need them. That will come partly by devolving skills, getting more employers and local representatives involved in the skills strategies that we need. And so, you know, it is right that we have the skills available to people who live here, the opportunities that they want to develop their working lives, and give the employers the skills that they need near them for the jobs that they need doing. Thank you. Rajiv from The Guardian.
Rajiv Sal from The Guardian. I'm over here, Prime Minister. Nigel Farage said that Donald Trump hates the Chagos deal. Is he right?
Well, look, the Chagos deal is a good deal. It secures the base. That's in the vital interests of the US and the UK. And we are already engaging with the new administration in Mauritius as to how we take that forward. Thank you. Harriet from the Daily Mail.
Daily Mail. The ONS has admitted that it's been too generous in its assumptions on its figures. Do you think that we need a total rethink of the way these figures are calculated? And do you think it's making it harder for government departments and agencies to plan when the ONS figures are so wide of the mark?
Well, I think it's really important that we resist the temptation to see the problem in these figures as lying with the ONS. Because these are the revised figures. They're there for all to see. And what's shocking about them is not that they've been revised. What's shocking about them is the sheer figures. You have to double take when you see an increase of 184,000 to 906,000 in 4 years. If we think about the previous decade or more, in terms of the sorts of numbers we were talking about, what's shocking is not the way the figures are arrived at. This is one of those occasions, a bit like 22 billion, a bit like the prisons are overfull, where the shock through the system is the sheer size of the number. and the loss of control under the last government. Thank you very much indeed.